Yo. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Over 50 Starting Over. I'm Barry Edwards.
And I'm Earl Garrison.
Yeah, how are you this morning,
I'm
bud?
doing great. How are you?
I'm really good. It's another beautiful day here, and love this time of year. It's very exhilarating.
I got to tell you that things are changing over here very quickly. I was just going to look. I went outside today and it felt like fall. I mean,
Oh
like
my God,
fall
really
in
for
the air.
you?
Yeah, it's 68 out there right now.
Wow, that's terrific.
I mean,
We have a high of 68 today.
is that right? I
Yeah.
mean, 68, it's going to get up to maybe 70 today. And
Really?
it's going to rain.
Oh my God.
I mean, it is weird out there.
Yeah, it's like you
All the
woke
way up
up in
until
Wonderland.
today. Yeah,
Yeah.
all the way up until today. It's been over 100 degrees every day, and today
Wow.
is the day we're making the flip.
Wow, you're gonna have a hard time working today.
Well,
You know?
it is gonna rain, so
Oh,
I mean, but that's even cool because it's like it never
yeah.
rains. So when it does
Yeah.
rain, it's like, whoa, it's raining. Can you believe there's stuff coming out of the sky? It's
I
crazy.
would go out and smoke a cigar under an awning and
I
just
know
take it
that's your
in.
thing, isn't it?
Yeah. I think that would
Yeah,
be really cool.
that's
Uh,
cool.
all right. Do you know that November 7th, coming up very, very soon, is our 5-year anniversary? Are you there?
November
Yeah.
7th. Yeah. How about that? That is
Yeah.
fantastic. 5 years. It doesn't, I mean, really, it just
Went
seems
by
like
very quick.
this is still a new idea.
Uh-huh. I had to look it up because I thought like about today I thought it was the end of October, but it's November 7th. So I think that's very exciting
Wow, that is really cool. Well, happy anniversary to you. 5 years is a
to us.
pretty huge accomplishment.
Well, it is when you think about it. We'll go into this, next episode or the one after that, when it truly is our 5-year anniversary. But we started out just before COVID. And then we eased, right? And you know what? We were getting our feet underneath of us very quickly. And then we eased right into COVID and everything turned upside down and sideways and inside out
It
all at
really did.
once. And we
It really did.
really, it was kind of an important time to start our podcast because we started just hashing out all of the messed up stuff going on. And you and I, we grew immensely quickly, and I mean mentally and in our awareness, because we're butting heads on all that stuff as it was going on, like everybody in the country. But you and I can do it and maintain some civility and
Right.
decency, even though it causes stress along the way. I mean,
But
it
it
did.
was fun though at the same time. I mean,
It
even
was
the things that we disagreed with, we still had a cordial thing going on. And also
spirited conversations.
it caused me to do more research. I mean, it
Same.
really
Oh,
did. It was
sure, of
like,
course.
you and I are naturally competitive. I mean, we all that's like the root of our friendship, actually. So
Mhm.
it drove us both into our research centers to like could it be that what Barry was saying is right? That's what I was thinking. I'm like, that can't be. Is that right? And it would
Sure.
I'd wake up in the middle of the night. "Ah, Barry,
Well, you know
what
what
is
it
it?
was in a nutshell. Again, we're going to have to move on to. We got a lot to go over today, but in a
Yeah,
nutshell, is it put conspiracy theories at the forefront, and we had to pick that concept apart about
right,
conspiracy theories.
right.
And
That's
I
true.
think the whole country has had to come to grips with this. I don't think most have. To some degree, this whole conspiracy theory crap, this label still works to a degree. Much
Yeah,
less, I think. I'll
it's
say,
funny
go
too.
ahead.
The term conspiracy theory has been demonized so much. Like, oh, if I say conspiracy theory, you might as well say lie.
Mhm.
But when you think about the term conspiracy theory,
Heresy,
it's a
heretics.
theory that you have about a conspiracy that's happening. And conspiracies have been happening since the beginning of time. So,
Hmm.
by demonizing that word, we make ourselves so vulnerable to actual conspiracies.
Well, for a large part, I'm trying to think of how long it's been now. A year and a half since the Twitter files came out.
Yes.
Um, that Elon Musk famously tweeted to Rogan, well, it looks like all the conspiracy theories came true
Yeah, I remember
when
that.
the Twitter files came out.
Yeah.
And with that, I think that's so important. And now When I hear conspiracy theory, I'm running towards it, not away from it.
Yeah, yeah,
Not
yeah. No
necessarily
kidding.
believing, but I want to hear it. I want to hear about it.
The revelation that many of these things are accurate that we thought, oh, come on, has
Yeah.
caused us to reevaluate just about everything in history. I mean, seriously, I went back to 9/11 and started picking that whole thing apart. There's some ugly. It's like I remember being a kid and you'd turn over a rock and there'd be all these wiggly worms
Yeah.
under it.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what we're seeing here. It's like, let's look at the. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it's like a lot. I've been saying this lately. Sometimes it's a lot like finding out there is no Santa Claus.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very true. What we're talking about just made me think about a podcast I listened to about a week ago. I didn't have it in my notes or anything, so this is just coming off the top of my head. But George Knapp and that other dude, can't think of his name at the moment, have a UFO conspiracy podcast called Weaponized.
Oh,
And they've been on Rogan a couple times, and they were working with Michael Schellenberger. And you
I
and I,
like him.
we both do.
Yeah.
He was, as he said on Rogan, he was one of the people invited to look into the Twitter files as they were being unveiled. And he was far left, as he said, progressive, toting the company line the whole way. And Rogan goes, well, what do you mean? You're talking like past tense. When did that stop? He goes, about 2 weeks ago when I got
I've heard him say that.
invited to the Twitter files.
He says, I was an arch liberal until about 5 minutes ago.
Well, no, he said progressive left, not
I've
liberal.
heard him say, I've heard him
left.
actually say,
I
that,
still think I'm a liberal and I'm not progressive left.
yeah, I would say that.
Classical,
you know,
you
yeah,
got to say classical liberal.
yeah,
because now they
now there's a
retermed it to
distinction, exactly.
Nazi. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I
But
think I still think you're a liberal, and I'm a conservative for sure, and so, but the thing we've discovered is that we have way more in common as liberals, classical liberals
yeah,
and conservatives
for sure.
than either one of us do with leftism.
And
So,
I'm also finding that you and I also have a whole lot in common with libertarian ideals. For sure.
yeah,
It's liberty first.
There's definitely, for me, libertarian, there's definitely some roadblocks there for me to be able to join in. But for the most part, I do I do like a lot of what they say.
There's a lot of a gamut. There's a lot of different libertarians. I'll say
and
that.
yeah, you're right. You're exactly right. They make a lot of sense. That's for sure.
Well,
Hey,
what I was saying about
what
I was saying about Schellenberger, what made me think of that with that weaponized podcast about UFOs, they said on their last podcast on November 17th, and they said, thank God it was intentionally pushed to after the election. There's going to be a big disclosure. Schellenberger wrote a paper. I forget exactly about what it was, but it was a real eye opener. And he kind of deleted it like off of his, there's that paid for thing that journalists.
Oh yeah, something stack.
Yeah. Now I can't think. You had it. You're right there. It is stacked.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he like deleted it before he really published it, but one of his enemies got hold of it and published it with his name on it.
Oh.
He wasn't ready for it to go out.
Wow.
So anyways, it's being pushed out. So I know this sounds really vague, but on November 17th, there is supposed to be kind of a big deal of disclosure happening. I do think it's in a congressional sense, in a very official sense.
Interesting.
So there's that.
Yeah.
You were going to say something.
There's all kinds of stuff that's going on right now. I did have some stuff for over 50 starting over when it comes to cancer that I wanted to talk about because, what we're seeing is a spike in cancer lately. It has actually gone up. Very young people are coming.
A particular cancer.
There's all kinds of different ones actually, but I'm going to concentrate on something. This guy is Thomas Seyfried. He's a scientist who's dedicated 30 years to researching cancer, and his message is that cancer is preventable. And so I just thought I'd go through a few of these things because I actually looked at a couple of these leading edge cancer professionals and research, and they're saying, I'm going to go through a couple of things here. They're saying a lot of the same thing. And boy, I tell you, if you can prevent this from happening, you are going to avoid a major setback here. But here's one of the big things. I got 7 things from this guy. Number 7 is maintain stable blood sugar levels. He's saying that glucose and insulin spikes can feed cancer cells. It's their diet, actually. So, and you and I have talked a lot about different kinds of sugars in our foods.
Oh God, yeah.
He's saying avoid sugar, avoid refined carbs, and processed foods. These diets high in sugar can also lead to chronic inflammation and increase the risk of cancer development.
And this is why I really, really, really want to see Trump win, because I want to see RFK in there.
I want to see that too.
Having huge influence over the FDA. I want to see him kick the ass of the FDA.
And they deserve it. They deserve it.
Deserve dismantled.
The things they have done to us is crazy. Yes. Number 6 is a ketogenic diet. He's saying that he's an advocate of a ketogenic diet, high fat, moderate protein, a low carbohydrate. He says this diet shifts the body from using glucose as its primary energy source to burning fat and ketones. Since cancer cells primarily rely on glucose growth, these things are recommended as substitutes. So nuts, olive oil, avocados, again, low carb vegetables, and lean proteins, i.e. fish. You're a big fish eater, aren't you?
Lisa, more so. I wish I was more so, because it's so good for you.
It is. That's what I hear. I don't like it that much.
Dude, I just heard yesterday a news report about just how high the price of beef has gone recently. It's not supposed to come back anytime soon, so people are leaning more into chicken and fish, which is good anyway, but it shouldn't be out of this kind of a necessity.
No, I agree. I totally agree. And I'm a big beef guy, as you know, and definitely been hit up by those prices. They talk a lot about inflammation and cancer being connected here. Number 5 is reduce inflammation. So chronic inflammation is linked to cancer. Seyfried advises adopting an anti-inflammatory lifestyle, which includes avoiding processed foods and sugars. That is
number 1.
Yeah, that's got to be that's got to be the number 1 message. Stay away from these processed foods and sugars. Consuming anti-inflammatory foods. So here's a couple of them. Turmeric. I'm not a big fan of turmeric.
Oh, I love turmeric.
A lot of people.
And rice. Yeah, and rice.
Fatty fish and green tea are 3 anti-inflammatory foods, and then reducing stress through things like meditation, deep breathing, and proper supplements. That meditation and deep breathing comes up a few times here.
A lot. That we talked about last week, I think it was, how proper deep breathing can take you out of that sympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight, and gets you right back. It's actually a technique that actors use too. And it gets you back into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is calm, thinking, rational. I wanted to just briefly mention, I heard a podcast about 2 weeks ago. Some woman, a doctor, was talking about, I don't remember which podcast, but she was saying and talking about the FDA, our food problems, that in Europe, they have about 400 different high processed food ingredients that are legal, those chemicals that are in highly processed. We have 4,000.
I've seen these articles. Yeah. Like we're allowing all kinds of foods,
poison,
that are banned all over the world.
Exactly.
Our FDA, again, it's the FDA.
It is. Yeah.
Number 4 is fasting, Barry. So this fasting thing we've been talking about for the past 5 years. Hopefully people are doing this kind of thing, but Seyfried is a big advocate for both intermittent fasting and long-term fasting, reducing
your system.
Fasting reduces blood glucose. There's that blood glucose and enhances ketone production, which cancer cells cannot efficiently use. This helps inhibit their growth and promotes autophagy. Autophagy? I don't know. Body's process of cleaning out damaged cells.
Okay, with that, I'm going to guess that if not the next one, it's on here, the HIIT exercises. High intensive interval training.
I don't have it on here, but
No
I'll tell you
way.
what. Here's 3 is reduce stress. Stress is causing, there's 2 major drivers causing cancer, and reducing stress can look like, we already talked about it, meditation, prioritizing rest and recovery, and taking natural supplements. That's huge. Number 2, regular exercise. So there it is. I mean, it's walking, swimming, strength training. So he's not getting specific here on the actual exercise
And you
program.
don't have to, man.
Yeah.
Whatever keeps you coming back the next day.
And then finally he goes into prioritize sleep. So we talked about that and how important that is. Sleep is when our body recovers and heals itself, especially our mitochondria. So it's our mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cell.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that. I've heard the term before. I didn't know what it was. The powerhouse of the cell.
Yeah. So every cell has a mitochondria. It's like the engine of the cell. And so our mitochondria with rest are reinvigorated. And the better and more sleep we get, the better our body is able to do this. So that means it's absolutely vital for preventing metabolic damage and cancer. So now I'm going to go through this one very quickly. This is Barbara O'Neill. She's a holistic health expert who spent decades researching natural health and wellness. And that's what we want because, again, the FDA, they're never going to approve a natural remedy, right? Because that's not how it works.
Well, who are they in bed with? The pharmaceutical industry. And they want to cure your problems that our food industry causes. And Ozempic is at the top of that list.
Right? Oh boy, right? I mean, it's come on, it's they feed each other, right? And the more cancer that we have, the better for them. I mean, they're not going to say that, but they're making billions and billions off of this. So if we just do these things, I'm going to go through she's got 10. I'm just going to go through them very quickly. Maintain an alkaline diet. That's leafy greens, low sugar fruits, nuts, and seeds. See a pattern here. Avoid processed foods is number 9. Number 8, regular detoxing, all the same stuff. Number 7, strengthen immune system by using hot and cold therapy. We talked about that on one of our shows.
We have. I'll say one thing I added to my supplements is echinacea.
Oh, yeah.
I did it just doing some research because I have these chronic sinus problems. And I know it's primarily from allergies, airborne allergies, mold and hay fever and things like that. And it sometimes turns into a sinus infection. So I've been using that neti pot for one. I have a pulmonary pediatrician physician friend that told me, do the neti pot for a week. And what did he say? Something else.
What's neti pot? What are we talking about?
That's that plastic pot. I could pull up an image. Maybe I'll do it in post. But you fill it with warm water. You got this saline package. So that's a mild salt solution. So salt dries up moisture, right? So you dissolve it in this warm water and you pour it in one nostril and it goes up.
Oh, yeah. I've done that too. Okay, now I know what you're talking about. That works.
Dude, the first time I did that was about 20 years ago. It's the first time I heard of it. And it freaked me out so bad. It took me another 20 years before I did it again.
I don't blame you. The first time I did it, I was like, this is like waterboarding.
Yeah, exactly. But then when you do it for the second time, you're already so freaked. This isn't nothing. This isn't nothing. And it's so good.
It's
so
miraculous. It's miraculous.
Yes. So I love that stuff. The echinacea on top of it, which is this mild immunotherapy kind of a thing. So it's supposed to help prevent colds and stuff like that too. So going into winter, it's a good idea.
I like that.
Swear to God, dude, I think I had a mild sinus infection and it cured it over about 2 weeks.
Amazing. Okay.
So I'm taking one of those a day too.
So like the echinacea that you put in there, where do you get that?
Oh, I think I got it off Amazon. Oh no, it's a gel cap. It's chopped up plants.
Oh, so
stuffed in a gel cap.
you take the gel cap and you use
One
the
a day.
neti thing. Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
and I'm
Interesting.
only using the neti pot maybe once a week now
Right, right.
because I just don't get around to it. But
Yeah.
when I never regret using it, let me tell you. Never regret that.
Me too. I mean, last fall, I think, well, at some point, I got hit by the whatever was in the air. It
Oh
was
yeah.
really getting
There's
me,
so much
man.
crap in the air, man.
I was willing to do just about anything,
Yeah.
including waterboarding, to get rid of that. And when I did, that was the only thing that worked. It was like, oh, thank God. So yeah, big one.
So
Hey,
my
go ahead.
minor thing, but I even went on Amazon recently and bought 100 new packets of the
Oh,
saline. I don't
oh
need
yeah,
another
those
neti
little
pot.
things are
Yeah.
good. Yeah, yeah, I
So
hear
yeah,
you. I
really
got a
good.
bunch of them too. I do
Big
too.
proponent, man. Big
Yep,
proponent.
yep. When you need it, it's important.
It's a
Go out and
miracle
get
worker.
yourself one if you
Yeah.
have that problem, because that's a serious thing. Hey, a couple other things as far as immune system, getting adequate sleep, and incorporating probiotics and fermented foods for gut health.
Yes. I
The
have
basically
Charlie
the
on it.
yeah, basically the healthier your immune system, the better chances of
Mm.
preventing cancer. It seems obvious, but sunlight exposure. Remember, they were trying to tell us that don't go out in the sun,
Oh,
and
well,
and then
for
they tried to take
COVID,
vitamin D
it was
from
up.
us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it was found something like 87% of the people that got COVID were deficient in vitamin D.
Well,
Something like it might have been more than that, but I want to be conservative on that. So
yeah.
I take in not yet, but we're coming up on the time of year I'm going to start taking my vitamin D supplements along with my multivitamin and all that because we just don't get much sun for about 4 or 5 months
Oh,
out
you
of the
sure
year.
don't. That's
Right.
right. That's right. Here in Phoenix, you do, which is great.
Oh,
But
you guys
uh,
are all about getting out of the sun there.
right.
You really are. There's nothing
In the
but
winter,
awnings and umbrellas there.
in the summertime, you have to, because
Yeah.
it is like fire on your skin. But in the wintertime, it is so, I mean, it's going to be like
Yeah.
this until
Yeah.
next May. So I can't wait to get out there.
Yeah.
But sunlight exposure, vitamin D, very important. Barbara advises 15 to 30 minutes of safe sun
Oh,
exposure
yeah.
daily to
Oh, yeah.
maintain healthy vitamin D levels
And
to support your immune function. Go ahead.
Dr. Andrew Huberman of the Huberman Lab podcast, a very, very famous neurologist, he talks a lot about how important it is to get it in the morning. And it
Oh,
does something with that, is it, if I say it right, circadian rhythm of,
yeah,
it's
your
a
sleep
biologic,
rhythm.
yep,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
of that, but also your mood. And there's even a biological effect to it. So getting sunlight early in the morning is the most important. In fact, they
Interesting. I love
recommend
that.
wearing sunglasses at nights because of that same circadian rhythm effect. If I
Huh.
say it right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, I think you're saying it right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I recognize that word. Yeah. So another one, herbal remedies. It's she suggests herbal and natural supplements to boost immunity. She's talking about garlic for the immune
Oh,
system, green
yeah.
tea for its antioxidant
Mm,
effects. Remember the inflammation thing, and then
mm.
turmeric also. An
Yes.
anti-inflammatory and so there's that turmeric again.
You
Maybe
could
I should
get
start trying to
turmeric.
like that.
Well, you could get turmeric tea. I like turmeric a lot. You keep saying green tea, and it's like that. I love tea. I drink it every day, but this is black tea because it's very robust. I like that. Green tea is like drinking muddy water to me, lightly
Ah,
muddy water. It almost has no taste. It's
not my
sour.
favorite.
It's
Yeah.
not my favorite. No.
Yep.
But you
Yep.
know what I should do is I should do one bag of green tea and one bag of black tea.
Hmm.
That's what I should do because I
There
got
you go. Mix them together.
yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah,
then you
yeah.
got the robust and the
Yeah.
qualities. There
I'm
you
going to
go.
do that. I'm going to do that.
You've always been a fan of the robust
Yeah,
drinks. I
yeah, yeah,
remember.
yeah. Well, I like saying robust because you never really hear it outside of a coffee commercial.
That's funny. You're keeping that word alive. I love
What,
that.
dude, you and I used to talk about that in college back then. We
Robust. I
would grab
remember
our
when we
cup of
drink our
coffee and
coffee.
hold it by your head. Robust.
It's like Folgers.
We used
Okay.
to do Maxwell House Master Blend back
Oh,
then.
that's right. I
Yeah,
totally forgot about
I
that. You
just
got the,
thought of it. When you said
that is
Folgers, I'm
great.
like, we didn't do Folgers. What
No,
did we do?
no. It was Maxwell House for robust.
Master Blend. Yeah.
All right.
Do you got
Number
more?
4 is
Yeah,
exercise. Yep. Walking,
of
swimming,
course.
strength training. Number
Whatever
3,
keeps you coming back.
Yeah, number three, hydration and pH balance. This is interesting. She advocates for drinking plenty of water to keep your body hydrated and maintain a balanced pH. She encourages adding minerals or lemon for optimal alkalinity. I don't know if I said that right, but you get what I mean. Winding down the last two, reduce exposure to toxin, avoid natural skincare products. Interesting.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
I'm sorry. I said avoid. I meant using natural skincare
okay,
products.
because I was going you need to explain that one.
I mixed up the next one and this one, which is avoid plastics, especially plastic bottles.
We talked about that briefly last week.
Yeah. And limit exposure to household chemicals and pesticides. Keeping your environment clean helps protect your body from harmful substances. And finally, focus on emotional and mental health. It turns out that these things are right there at the axis of your health is breathing practices. Okay. Again, a little bit of a repeat, surrounding yourself with positive influences. That's why I hang out with Barry. And reducing stress through prayer, meditations, counseling. This meditation, praying, even counseling, such a powerful thing.
Huge. Finding gratitude in things each day. Another thing is proper socialization.
I think
you mentioned it there a second ago about being around positive influences. It's super important. I went through large periods of time where I was spending way too much time alone because I work on my own and stuff like that. It's not good for you. You need to be within positive social groups.
Okay, now I've got some pretty good news here. Although that was good news that you can prevent cancer. Get this. There are several articles about this that have come out over the last couple of weeks, Barry. Top oncologist blows whistle. Ivermectin proven more effective than chemotherapy.
Holy crap.
All right, get this. Now, this isn't just this guy is at the center of it, but there's a peer-reviewed study just came out a couple of weeks ago. This is ginormous news right here.
Yes,
but
it is.
This guy, Dr. Makis, asserts that the study's findings call for a profound shift in the treatment of advanced breast cancer, as the evidence shows ivermectin can significantly outperform chemotherapy. The anti-parasitic drug ivermectin has shown staggering results, outperforming the widely used chemotherapy drug Paxlotaxel, and destroying cancer stem cells, those responsible for metastasis and recurrence. Now, Barry, here's the deal. Is that I read through all of this, is that this Paxlotaxel is the drug that's being used for breast cancer almost 100% of the time. That's the name of the drug. Each pharmaceutical company has its own name.
Is that a chemo drug or a form of ivermectin?
It is a chemo drug. And basically what it does is it destroys the cancer cells, but what it doesn't destroy is the cancer stem cells. Cancer stem cells are the cells that actually produce more cancer cells. It's like the root of cancer. So while Paxlotaxel can help you, but you're constantly going to have to be on it because it's never going to eliminate cancer. Okay, so there's your annuity plan. It's your annuity plan that the pharmaceutical companies have, is that now you're going to be on this for the rest of your life, and it's not cheap either.
There you go. So for that,
here it is. Now, ivermectin not only kills the cancer cells, Barry,
it's almost free
directly after those stem cells. And it kills those stem cells, preventing them from producing more cancer. That's what's going on here.
For that reason, I highly predict, I put money on this. You're going to start seeing discrediting news against that doctor and his studies.
Well, that's exactly right. And we saw that this huge press during COVID to eliminate ivermectin from our vocabulary, even.
The horse dewormer.
This is horse dewormer. Oh my God, they're taking horse drugs. It's so dangerous. Well, they won the Nobel Peace Prize, or the Nobel Prize, for the safest drug on the market. It's gone out literally billions of times. It's about the cost of aspirin.
Yes.
No pharmaceutical company is going to make a mint on this stuff, and that's why I believe they were trying to kill this thing before people started to realize the effectiveness of this whole thing,
dude,
which is so crazy. So they tried to keep us out of the sun, and they tried to take ivermectin. And look, cancer is a cash cow. And this is it's sick when you start to think
what
about
is that doctor's name?
It's Makis, Makis. There is a peer review study that just came out. Let's see if
is it like Caruso?
Let's see if I can find Dr. William Makis.
Okay, got it.
And he's a Canadian oncologist.
And
I have another article with the peer review on this, but I must have done something to it. Let's see if I can find it. No, I don't have it anymore. But another peer-reviewed study came out, and it's got Dr. Makis all over this thing, and a whole bunch of other doctors. A peer-reviewed study just came out proving all of this with all of the results and everything. It's ivermectin. And what we're looking at is some other anti-parasitical drugs that are being tested as well, doing the same kind of thing. Turns out that anti-parasitical drugs seem to have an effect on cancer, which makes me think, so is cancer a parasite? What's up with that? But we'll get more information on this. This is a big killer that's out there, and it looks like our scientists are making some great progress on this. Now, one last thing that I will say about that. Let's see. Do I have, I had another article on this health thing, but speaking of health, I can't find that. But speaking of health, man, Barry, over here in, we've got the CDC out here saying that they're bracing for XEC COVID-19 variant. Now circulating in the U.S. They're saying recent estimates published by the U.S. Centers for Disease and Control and Prevention show that XEC COVID-19 variant is now circulating inside the United States, and it makes up about 10% of all the COVID cases. So at the same time, as you know, I'm in the healthcare industry. Hospitals now are pushing back on a new rule that's come out from the CDC. All this stuff is happening behind the scenes. You're not really hearing this, but since I'm in the industry, I get this kind of news. They're pushing back on new rules to report capacity COVID data. Okay, so during COVID, every hospital had to report their capacity every day to the CDC. I've been involved in those meetings where they talk about how many beds are available, what are the demographics of who's there, how every day you've got to give the status, and the CDC was updating it. But that was in the middle of the so-called pandemic. But they are looking like they're trying to ramp this up again.
They always are.
And it's right before election season. And this is kind of my point here, is that we talked about this at the beginning of the year and all the different things that could happen as we come into election season. And this was one of them. We said this was going to happen. Barry, in Marin County in California right now, they're masking up again at the hospitals. I
read that.
Can't get into those hospitals without masking up again.
Oh my God.
Just FYI.
That's California.
This is an interesting trend we're looking at here, and that's it.
Well, that's very interesting. I want you to know that at the end of our show, I have some positive news about a miracle. 911 dispatch technology saves a man's life. And it's kind of like one of those things because of the industry that you're in, and revolutionizing technology to save people's lives. You're going to love that one. It's nice, awesome. And quick. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Other things we got to talk about. I just want to mention briefly, Amazon and Google make dueling nuclear investments to power their data centers because AI is so power intensive. But yes, I find it interesting that Amazon and Google, the far left people that are always nuts about nuclear, are like, oh shit, we need nuclear because we tried putting solar panels on our roof and it didn't quite cut it. To say the least.
Yeah.
There's a thing about the DOJ is suing the state of Virginia. And God, it was a few days. I forgot all about this. I'll get back to it. I just want to give you an overview. There is a Tulsi Gabbard interview, which I forgot to watch. It's a YouTube video. I have the link to it. It is called Why We Left the Democratic Party, her and RFK Jr., Why We Left the Democratic Party and Why You Should Too. And oh, this one's super cool. I have a 1 minute video of SpaceX catching their Starship.
Oh, that is amazing.
It is so amazing.
I was watching that. It's so surreal watching that thing come back.
Oh
it's
my
like
God. It's
to
high
me,
def.
it kind of looked like a chimney coming down. It's like there's a chimney coming down from space, and then the arm like what the that was so
freaky.
high tech.
That was so freaky. And it like that 1 minute video seemed like it went by in 5 seconds because the whole time it's so cool. That's one of those times you want to go to Spotify or our YouTube channel to see our videos. We got a few today actually, but I would say our main content for the rest of the show is going to be on both VP Kamala Harris's, she discusses immigration and the economy with Bret Bair on a special report. When I watched it, I took a play-by-play that I'm going to read to you as it went. And I'm glad I did because I did that before I got anyone else's influence. I
love that.
So I thought that was very interesting. Then, did you listen to Merle, the Trump interview by Patrick Bet-David?
No,
yesterday?
I did not. No.
All right. Well, I have notes on that. Now, I listened to that while I was walking the dog and riding to the Mexican restaurant and all that. So I just came back home and took notes after the fact. And that's certainly fine. I have a couple movie recommendations at the end too.
Beautiful, beautiful. I do have some information on a new DoD directive I want to be able to cover. And
yes.
I think it's absolutely huge. Sure. The DoD, Department of Intelligence and intelligence related activity, they've come out with a new directive. Now, the directive is called 5240.0. I'll just read the title of this. It's a long one. DoD intelligence and intelligence-related activities and defense intelligence component assistance to law enforcement agencies and other civil authorities. This is a long one. It came out on September 27th, but I think it's very important for everybody to know what's inside of this because
does that title translate to National Department of Defense is infiltrating somehow the local police departments?
Yes.
That's what it sounded like.
That's exactly it.
Okay.
This is, if we take a look at section 3 on this, let's see if I have this right. 3.2.3.3 levels of authority. So here it is. I went through this to cut through it. It's a kind of a long document. It's 22 pages, but if you look at just the net out of this, it's the defense intelligence components. They may provide personnel to assist a federal department or agency, including federal law enforcement agencies or state and local law enforcement agencies, when lives are in danger in response to a request for such assistance in accordance with the following approval authorities. They go through the approval authorities. Secretary of Defense has to approve this. And if we go down to C, this is where it really comes into focus. Assistance in responding with assets with potential for lethality or any situation in which it is reasonably foreseeable that providing the requested assistance may involve the use of force that is likely to result in lethal force, including death or serious bodily injury. It also includes all support for civilian law enforcement officials in situations where a confrontation between civil law enforcement and civilian individuals or groups is reasonably anticipated. Such use of force must be in accordance with DoD 5210, potentially as further restricted based on specifics of the requested support. Bottom line, what does that mean?
Yeah, right.
It means that now the U.S. military can embed themselves with local law enforcement when an uprising, a citizen uprising happens. It's like a protest or like a January 6th kind of a thing. What this says is that the military now can come and shoot you. This is approval by the Secretary of Defense in order to make this happen, but this actually reverses a long-standing law called Posse Comitatus Act, which is a federal United States federal law, which went into effect June 18th, 1878, which says that it prohibits the there's a huge rainbow outside at this very same time. That is really crazy. It prohibits the U.S. Armed Forces from turning their guns on civilians. Okay, so this is a long-standing practice here in the United States that just got reversed by the DOD right before the election. I think about how Biden was asked recently if he thought there would be a peaceful transfer of power. He said that if Harris wins, there would be a peaceful transfer, but if Trump were to win, that there wouldn't, or maybe it was reversed, but he definitely hinted that there was not going to be a peaceful transfer. And now we've got the military. And now, just ahead of, we're talking about this debate next. It's interesting when you see how unhinged Kamala became and very angry.
And you've
heard people on her side of the aisle, like Eric Swalwell, threaten us with, we have nukes. What do you mean you're going to come against the American government? Even Joe Biden himself said, what do you got, an F-16? How are you going to beat us? Here it is. This is staggering, Barry.
And additionally, Kamala went on, in my opinion, a fake tirade, being angry, trying to make some viral thing, accusing Trump of just that, what you just said about turning
weaponizing the government.
Yes, to turn them on the American people like that. I absolutely could not believe. Let's see.
That was interesting part of the debate. I know we're going to go through it, but that was kind of a pivot point. Where it was Bret Bair put up on the screen. It was supposed to be him talking about the enemy within, but instead the video was him talking about all of this lawfare that has been waged at him from the Democrat Party. And boy, did Kamala get really ticked on that. But this is it. This is about this.
Yeah. It's that projection. Once again, that the party does.
That's what they do.
It's like everything that they're accusing the other party of is exactly what they're doing. Right down the line.
This has to be in like what was it? Radicals, the Radical Handbook, rules for radicals. This has got to be one of those rules, right?
Or Idiocracy, one of the two.
Or the combination.
What do you say we go jump right into that? It's leading right into it. Let's talk.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to talk about it first.
All right. So Kamala's interview with Bret Bair, and I guess I'll start from the back and reverse engineer this, because what I wanted to say is so after the fact, I'm glad I did my own note-taking and my own processing of that in real time as it was happening, rather than wait until I heard the press. The press was rather predictable after I heard it. The left all kind of join forces. You know how they do. They get their talking points and they all speak the same stuff.
The same language, the same terms and everything.
About how testy Bret Bair was on her, and just nasty and all that. In other words, roll over, show your belly before you as you're attacking the other side. It was rather disgusting. I thought Bret bailed her out on two instances, which I will share with you, the video, that exact part. I will also say that the only reason that he kept interrupting her is because it was obvious from the beginning. First of all, I didn't know this part until after they showed up way late for the interview, and then said, well, maybe you'll get 20 minutes. In other words, they're managing once again, trying to.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And then clearly they had two tactics and only two. Kamala, do your famous word salads, because we got to run out the clock. And the other is turn it on Trump every freaking chance you get. And she did, and it didn't even make sense. And this is where Baird bailed her out on two occasions. I'll share that with you. But I'm just going to start reading my notes from the top as I went. I'm 4 minutes in. Disaster. Bret asks how many illegal immigrants this administration has let into the country. And I say, can I have some blue cheese with that word salad? She says nothing. Team Kamala intends to run out the clock like a football team up by 10 points, even though she's down by 10. It occurs to me at this moment that this interview is, in fact, a Hail Mary. So we got all these football analogies. It was clear that they're just trying to run out the clock, but
Yes.
it's also clear they would never, ever in a million years take this interview if it wasn't. It's a Hail Mary. They're
Well, and this is interesting because I heard Bret being interviewed by Hannity after this interview was over, and he talked about how he had studied Kamala and how she had answered a lot of these questions, and he knew that she was going to try to run out the clock by just talking, talking, talking. And so his strategy was to disrupt that by interrupting her. Number two was that he was going to start with immigration, not only because he thought it was the most important thing, but he'd also studied how she'd answered questions about immigration before, where she blames Trump because somehow he was able to block the progress of this latest bill. And she also references another bill that
all the
they tried
lefts
to pass.
say that.
Yeah. So he decided to, rather than just let that go, he's going to get inside of it. And because a lot of the stuff that's inside of these bills, even Democrats voted against. So right away, he trips her up and gets her off of her game where she wants to just rely on those talking points. And it is extremely disruptive. The nonverbals that are happening right in the beginning of this whole thing from Kamala are pretty intense. Like you can see that his tactic is working.
Yeah, true. And the one main point that should have been stuck with is, Kamala, your administration let 4 times as many illegals in as ever has happened before. Historic levels. Explain that. You incentivize them. And there's absolutely no answer for that whatsoever.
No, she can't answer that question because that's what happened.
There is no answer to it.
Yep.
At 6 minutes in, I said she's trying to blame deaths caused by illegal immigrants on Trump. OMG. Just to expound on that a little bit. Another thing that I've been disappointed by everybody, including Bret, is, but especially Trump, is the astounding, like there's an estimate of 300,000 children that have gone missing during these last 3.5 years via the open borders. How do you not talk about that? How do you not talk about the extensive amount of sex trafficking to men, women, and children, and some men, boys as well, as a result of this? That is absolutely disgusting. I mean,
I agree.
That's number one. And nobody talks about that. Maybe it's because it's too painful for us to talk about. You and I talked about this like a week or two ago, that I was saying that I think that, it's become more obvious to me how prevalent pedophilia is, especially in pockets of power. And I think it's just too painful for people to process.
I think you might be right about that. And I also believe that going into that subject is going to open up probably a whole can of worms that he knew he was not going to be able to cover in that short 20 minutes that he had. I heard that he had 75 questions prepared for her. And so
he got to like 4.
Yeah. And that was his whole thing, is he felt that she was going to try to limit him to 4 questions. And so he had all these questions prepared, probably had questions on that he felt that he had to skip through. But interesting what you're saying about pedophilia and the power structures that seem to be supporting this. There is a story right now about Guatemala and this organization called Save the Children, which the Attorney General of Guatemala is trying to kick that whole organization out of Guatemala. They're supposed to be helping children that are in need, homeless children, that kind of thing, but they're accused of sex trafficking. And the Attorney General down in Guatemala is all over this thing. I've heard him interviewed a couple of times. Of course, the interesting thing that the press is hiding is that Jill Biden was on the board of Save the Children, as well as Beau Biden's ex-wife.
Wow.
So they're very much involved in this. The Biden administration sent Blinken down to Guatemala to work with the president of Guatemala because Barry, we actually have a lot of influence over the government of Guatemala, and that goes back to the whole banana republic that we formed there through the CIA, through Chiquita Banana, that used to be called United Fruit Company. Anyway, Blinken went down there to work with the president of Guatemala to get that attorney general fired, just like in Ukraine with Burisma. It's the same thing.
Wow.
So going back to this is, why didn't Bret Bair ask about this? This is like the iceberg in the ocean. There is so much to this that probably needed like a whole series of shows to go through. And he probably knew that he wasn't going to get anything out of her on this.
Right. All right, I'll continue on this because we got a lot more to go to, and this episode is blazing by quickly. All right, at 7 minutes in, Bret plays the tape of a woman who lost her daughter
brutal
to a catch and release illegal. Harris feigns sympathy. These are my notes. At that time, I wrote down total sociopath. Back to trying to blame Trump.
Boy, was that ever ugly.
I was so bothered by that.
I mean, that was super ugly. I mean, she went and said, it's true, these things happen, but it's also true that Trump, blah, 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 blah. And it just seems so
how do you do that? Callous.
Unfeeling.
Yeah.
Right? It's psychopathic is really the right word. So sociopathic. I mean, no empathy or feeling for those people. And this is really the first time I've ever heard her have to even confront that. With any kinds of words. And
she should be confronting that on a daily basis, but they've controlled her press that tightly.
Well, this is where the Achilles heel is that these two, her and Tim Walz, don't have practice fielding these kinds of questions. So I thought it was interesting. I'm a big nonverbal guy. When they showed the clip, I was like, oh my God, like this is like deer in the, like, wouldn't you be a deer in the headlights on that? And then
dude, I'd walk out at that point because I'd break down and cry, most likely.
So I have to say this, and my brother said this too, and I have to agree. I mean, you said this is a Hail Mary, but wow, I mean, it would have, for her, this had to be a really tough thing for her to do right here. Coming in and facing this, because you got to respond to that. Personally, if I were to respond to that, I would have put the apology out there and moved on. I wouldn't have tried to blame anybody.
For sure.
The problem is that, leaders have to take responsibility. And this person has shown that she is not a leader. She's not taking responsibility for anything. When she's asked what she would change, there's nothing she would change about what happened over the last 4 years.
It just trips her up. She just is not prepared for that. Another thing people seem to just gloss over and forget about is she had historic levels of turnover in her staff during her tenure. That is back to no leadership skills.
No, that is exactly right. That's
exactly right. That stuff about seeing the mother who lost her daughter to a catch and release illegal leads right into at 9:20. Bret says, you supported giving illegals IDs, free healthcare, other freebies. Paraphrasing a little bit there. Do you still support that? Non-answer, leading to I'll follow the law. Bair did not. These are just my notes. Bair did not follow up. WTF? Okay, that leads to 11 minutes. I mean, I know for him, time was of the essence. So 11 minutes in, trans surgeries for prisoners on taxpayer dollars. She says, again, I'll follow the law. Non-answer.
And then she
blames Trump again.
And says that you have to be responsible for what happens in your administration, which is the epitome of hypocrisy here, because this whole time she's been she's blaming everything that's happened in her administration on Trump.
Correct. And then at this point, this is the part I say must play. 16:55 in, 79% of Americans think the country is on the wrong path. And dude, I got to say that again, even though I'm going to play it, 79% of Americans think the country is on the wrong path.
And I said, overcome that.
Dude, I said, oh, this is such a disaster. And then that's the quote, Trump has been running for office. Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. When you see this, this makes no sense. This is where I say, Bret kind of rescued her here. She was not making sense and he interrupted her. He should have left her out there hanging. So then she goes into her infamous, now infamous, it's 2 days old and it's infamous. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
Wasn't that crazy? A crazy
And Bret
moment.
rescued her again right there. I mean, he does come up with, no, I don't know what you're talking about, but she's making up words as she goes along here. I am going to play that now. And I thought with that whole, you know what I'm talking about, is just part of her personality where usually it would be the cackle, or at least the cackle would be accompanied. Because she's trying to disarm you and get you on her side in that really pathetic kind of adolescent way. So yeah, we have to go here for this. Oh, I didn't hit sound.
Isn't that fun?
Oh, it's so fun. And I know
it wouldn't be
our
over 50
audience
starting over if we just did this.
Right. Okay, here we go.
That is about turning the page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of, Bret.
More than 70% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
What?
Madam
you
Vice
and
President.
I both know what
Right there. Okay. You know what? I'm going to play the rest of it and then I'm going to go back.
I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade, people have become...
See, he rescued her again right there. She didn't know what she was going to say. She didn't know what she was talking about, and he interrupted her. So I'm going to go back to this nonsensical part where she just says, and Donald Trump has been running for president during that time. What does that mean?
Wrong track. Right. That track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
you
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade, people have become...
See, right there, he rescued her again. She didn't even know what she was going to say.
Yes, I agree with you on this. And I think it was because he was in this interrupt mode that he couldn't help himself. But he should have let her entrap herself right there.
She was totally doing it. Right.
I bet you if he had to do that again, he would have let her talk.
She was making, at that point, she was floundering. After that stat came up, 79%, she didn't know what to say to any of that.
Yeah.
Okay, that leads us to just a few notes and we're done. Then we're going to go on the Trump interview. 1915, at 19 minutes, 15 seconds in, they play a Trump clip on weaponization of the legal system. She turns it into Trump wanting to lock people up. I could play this if you want. This is when she gives us the fake anger clip because she wants a viral clip. Right. And Bret doesn't bring her back to the lawfare issue. Once again, I thought it was a failure on Bret's part, but he was under time constraints.
Well, and not only that, I found out that at the end of the interview, the Harris team that was there in the studio were behind the cameras waving and just going all crazy. You could actually see
they should have thrown in the white towel
by that. But it was funny because at the time they were doing all that waving, Harris was on this tirade at the time.
Yeah.
And I think
fake.
It's interesting that, well, you say it's fake. Here's the thing is that she's in a bad position with black men right now. And, you know, it's interesting that here she is on Fox News because there's a lot of black men that have decided to turn the page, as she would call it, because they're sick and tired of getting screwed over by this administration. So
Obama's act isn't working anymore either.
No. In fact, what Obama said last week, and we talked about it, actually drove a whole bunch more black men over to Trump.
Right.
And so now she's got a chance to talk to these black men, because I guarantee they're watching this particular interview.
Yeah.
And I gotta say that I think she lost the whole thing where she becomes angry and she's just yelling. I don't think that's drawing in black men. Right. And but you look at her strategy that she had this week, knowing that she had to pull black men in. She unfurled a new policy that she's going to implement if she becomes president, so that black entrepreneurs will have the opportunity to receive a $20,000 loan that they don't have to pay back. That's reparations.
Yes.
And number two is that through that very same avenue, she's going to open up opportunities in the cannabis industry. So, okay,
I know that was funny. That was funny.
There you go. Here's some weed.
Give
and
you
money.
some free weed.
Good. It reminds me of that scene in Trading Places, one of my favorite movies, where Mortimer and his brother try to entice Eddie Murphy into working with him, and he's on the side of the road, and they pull up in the limo and they hold a bottle of whiskey and they go, whiskey.
I don't remember. It's been so long. That was back in college. This is a
great scene right there.
Yeah.
But that's what they're doing there. Whiskey. Oh boy, let me get some whiskey.
I think that was a point. Eddie turns and looks at the camera.
And he looks at the camera. That's the best scene ever.
All right, let's finish this up. At 2110, and this is paraphrasing, Bret says something to the effect of, when did you notice that Biden has lost his mind? No answer.
That was the
Trump.
best. I love that he asked that question, because, and really the answer is what got me, is that she said that Joe Biden's not on the ballot. She said that twice.
Yeah.
But this was her way of trying to avoid that question. Of course, Joe Biden's not on the ballot. You're on the ballot. Your integrity is on the ballot. Your ability to tell the American people the truth is on the ballot. And if you've got a president that has cognitive difficulties, then the entire country is at risk. And you corroborated with a fake story about the president's mental ability, causing us to have a false sense of security.
So obvious. Same with the media. Everybody saw the media lying to them and each week turning their story around, and yet there's still that segment of the population, a very big voting segment, by the way, called boomers, that will still listen to that crap. It's amazing to me.
Barry, let me go back to that last thing that we talked about, where she went off on Trump has been running for president for the last 10 years. And that doesn't that speak to her inability to lead, that somebody is preventing her from accomplishing her goals when she's the vice president and Biden is the president, somebody that he's not even in politics.
Exactly.
He doesn't have an office, but yet he can prevent the border bill from passing. He can cause all these things to happen. Yet at the same time, the DOJ is ferociously trying to throw him in prison, and still he has the ability to knock all of these things. And you know what I'm talking about.
That's why I had to play it. It was so pathetic.
What weakness. I mean,
weakness.
Are you kidding me? Now, how could she possibly win after this?
Dude, if she does it, first of all, there was an expression I was trying to say it to Lisa that I've heard a lot lately. What it means is you got to win so big it can't be fixed. And it's a rhyme that goes together.
So this is my concern, is going back to DOD Directive 5240.01, is that it looks like with answers like this particular interview, you shot yourself in the foot so badly. Your vice president shot himself in the foot so badly. Last week, you went on The View, you went on Stephen Colbert and said no changes would happen under your organization. This campaign seems dead in the water, but if she wins, I think this DOD directive becomes very important because I think that people are going to not believe that she won. And we've got a problem that they feel is going to brew as a result. And I think they're going to cheat.
Well,
we're already seeing how illegal aliens are voting.
Everybody, we know that. We know about the Hunter laptop cover up. We know about all the censorship with the social media channels. We know about all the lawfare. How is all this not being prosecuted? Well, it's because they own the DOJ and they own the whole corrupt system, because it's all unconstitutional, unprecedented. It's all banana republic crap. Let's finish this up. I got to get to the Trump part. I'm going to say that both of these are real counterpoints on each other, and I think they're both too late. Both of these things should have occurred a month ago, at least. I think everybody's made up their mind anyway, but I wanted to say, I had a final note on that. Kamala's final thing at 22 minutes in was about, she says, Iran's the biggest threat to the U.S. Bret says, well, what are you doing about it? There's just a word salad. There's no answer. She says something about Trump again. That's the end of the interview. They're basically both being pulled off stage. So I just said, final wrap up, not a single answer in the whole damn thing. Bret could have pushed harder and on the hard questions and let her hang herself out to dry in a couple of those places I mentioned. And Bair said post-interview, originally we were going to do a 25 to 30-minute interview. They came in and said, maybe you'll get 20. And so it was already getting whittled down. So his back was up against the wall, hence all the interrupting. The Trump interview on the Patrick Bet-David show that came on yesterday, I did say PBD brown-nosed in an embarrassing amount. And
I don't like that.
Right. And basically took Trump for a piggyback ride, meaning PBD loaded up issues comprehensively and then let Trump speak to them. Otherwise, he knows Trump would ramble on with meaningless hyperbole. This is important. And this gets to what I said a minute ago. Both of these interviews, which were like a juxtaposition of what had happened for the last few months, meaning Kamala finally comes on into enemy territory, even though it was so strictly managed, but way too late when I think everybody's decided anyway. Trump finally comes on into friendly territory. And this is the important part. I understand what Patrick Bet-David's intention was. He knows that Trump on his own will not speak to intelligent, comprehensive issues. So PBD would say for like 3 minutes, load up all this stuff. This is what is going on in Mexico with the tariffs and China and doing this. And why is that? What is going to happen with our economy as a result? And then Trump had perfectly intelligible answers to all of that. But Trump can't do that on his own. He would just talk about senseless hyperbole about how great he is and blah, blah, blah. You might want to go back and listen to that interview for what it's worth. Again, I think it's too little too late. I think this should have happened a month or two ago. But even though PBD was brown-nosing through the whole thing, he did recognize that Trump is a parent. Trump can talk to any foreign affairs issue, any economic issue at any level, whether it's domestic or internationally related. You could talk about those tariffs and the intricacies of them, all of that. But for some damn reason, he can't prepare to do that on his own. He needed an interviewer to lob up those, I don't want to say softballs, they were hard balls. They were important. They were full of important information. But I just think that both of these interviews were kind of a moot point at this late date.
I got to say that I have not been listening to a lot of the Trump rallies that have been happening lately.
Because they're senseless. Yeah.
Well, I don't agree with you on that. However, what I will say is this, that I feel like I've heard it all before. I feel like, okay, he can go on and on and on. I've listened to him. I don't think it's senseless what he's saying. I do think he makes sense when he speaks. And but But after you've heard it several times, you've heard it. And so you don't have to hear it over and over and over and over and over again, which is what happens. So I haven't been listening, but I will say when I contrast the two, there are things about Trump and his previous administration that I question so seriously. I mean, the whole thing with COVID and how we maneuvered through that was under his leadership. It led to some terrible things. He had Fauci at the helm, Dr. Birx, the guy from the CDC. These people were notorious. He should have known that these people were going to lead us into a pharmaceutical nightmare. Project Warp Speed, coming up with a vaccine in less than a year, is very dangerous. He should have known that. And a lot of the people that he put around him, including Fauci, Jeff Sessions, who recused himself at the beginning, Omarosa, are you kidding me? I think he's learned his lesson on that, because I see a lot of very, very powerful people around him that I feel a lot better about. So, when it comes down to this election, it seems very an easy choice for me, especially after I look at the competition. But is he the best of the best?
But I will say, it was very impressive how he could speak to all of these international affairs, the economy, all these extremely important issues. And remember, and if you don't know, listeners, Patrick Bet-David is an extremely successful insurance guy who's put together an empire. He's got one of the largest podcasts out there. He's a super smart businessman, and he understands these economic questions and foreign affair questions.
He really does.
I first turned you on to him. I discovered him on a Rogan podcast, and he was explaining all this stuff at a level I've never heard before. It was so smart. I sent it to you, and next thing I know, I'm subscribing to his podcast going, holy crap.
And he was talking about the hedge funds and how they work and educating Rogan on that whole thing. And
right.
Yeah, he's he gets it. He really does get it.
He does. And so I think that he saw how important it was to get that out there and took it upon himself. Now, I want to talk very briefly, because this is important. I don't think you heard about it. I mentioned it about 45 minutes ago, and I didn't really remember. My mind wasn't completely clear on this because it was a week ago, but the Department of Justice is suing the state of Virginia and putting pressure on other states as well. And government Glenn Youngkin is fighting it because it is the DOJ is trying to let non-citizens vote 25 days before the election. It's more election interference by the Department of Justice. And
the DOJ is weaponized.
There you go. And in quotes, the Biden-Harris administration is engaging in election interference, he wrote, Glenn Youngkin. They're harassing states to try to make sure that non-citizens trying to make sure that non-citizens can vote. This is a lawless abuse of power. I do have a clip that maybe we can listen to a little bit, but I don't think this was the clip I originally listened to.
Glenn Youngkin is with us.
I don't
Governor,
want to
you
waste
can't
time.
make this up. Why don't you explain, in your own words?
That bill was signed in 2006, and it requires us to use DMV data where people self-identify as non-citizens.
There we go.
To then go through a process of removing them from the voter rolls if they're on the voter rolls. And guess what? That's exactly what we've been doing. It's been happening for 18 years. Democrat governors, even Terry McAuliffe and Ralph Northam, used this process all the way up through into October. And that's exactly what we're doing in Virginia today. Is someone walks into the DMV, they identify themselves as a non-citizen, somehow or another, either by accident or by purpose, they register to vote, they're on the voter roll. We go through a process of notifying the registrar that they need to be told that if they cannot affirm their citizenship in 14 days, they're taken off the voter roll. And this is the process that the Department of Justice, 25 days before a presidential election, turns around and says, you must stop doing this. And that is unbelievable to me.
Dude, how is this not national headlines?
I mean, Talk about the desperation to maintain power by this party. It is
election
really,
interference by the
really
DOJ.
something. It's crazy. And speaking of election interference by the DOJ, here's another story in the news that also is election interference. Judge orders more Jack Smith Trump investigation docs be made public ahead of election. The judge in the former President Trump's federal election interference case ordered more documents be revealed from special counsel Jack Smith investigation into the former president just weeks before the election. They're going to release this information, and the judge is saying that a big reason for releasing the information has to do with, here it is, Chutkin. That's the judge, cited in the order Trump's claim that, quote, asymmetric release of charged allegations and related documents during early voting creates a concerning appearance of election interference. And what she said was that while there's a public interest for courts to avoid involving themselves in the election, it is in fact the defendant's requested relief that risks undermining the public interest. So they're going to put that information out. And to me, this is timing Jack Smith's reinvigoration of this case only weeks before the election, when the Supreme Court said already that he had immunity in this case. This is just another case of election interference, and expect more is what I would say.
I think about a lot, like if the Republican Party can come out victorious on this, and I can't believe that I actually am aligning myself with a party, but the movement has to happen so that we can, here's what I'm trying to say. I could see a generation, 2 generations from now, reading history books, or at least watching history holograms, about what the hell took place back here in the 2020s, about this historic time, about how this so-called pandemic was used in an attempt to grab power, about how it happened. I've been listening to podcasts about probably JFK was the last real true independent, or maybe Nixon was the last true autonomous president to have true power. And really the deep state's been running it ever since. And
I agree with you.
And it's just amazing to see this evolution as it's come. And Trump all of a sudden comes into power and notoriety because he's outside the box. He's not a traditional Republican. Like, could you see how happy they would be to put Mitt Romney in there, Republican? They would. Fine. Who cares?
Right.
Back and forth, sure. But Trump, whoa, wait a minute. He's anti-deep state. He's got our numbers on his back. I mean, now everything went crazy.
Well, and if you look at it, it's like, just go back to that Kennedy thing and look at our presidential elections since then. It seems to me that every election, except for the Nixon elections, have been a choice of 2 characters that the deep state wouldn't mind having as the president.
Yeah.
You look at George Bush and George W. Bush. These guys pretended to be conservative Republicans, and they got away with it during their entire presidencies. Yeah. And it turns out they're globalists. They have no loyalty to the United States whatsoever. George H.W. Bush was a CIA director, and there's no loyalty from the CIA to the United States. We've learned that. So here comes Trump, and no wonder they're trying to assassinate him.
Yeah, right. All right, moving right along, because we're going to have to wind up pretty soon. I have to show you this, and it sounds like you've already seen it, but it's just so cool. Now, SpaceX and Elon Musk's rockets here have been really in the news. For one, I just learned the other day that SpaceX does these launches at 1/20th the cost that NASA does them.
Right.
Not only that, but NASA just dumps those boosters into the ocean.
Every time.
And so Elon Musk is trying to create a completely recyclable rocket. And here is the test of retrieving one of these boosters, and it is freaking mind-blowing.
We're now down to 3 Raptor engines.
Look at this.
We can see those chopsticks now.
I love the crowd.
Yeah. Dude, this is crazy. Look at that.
Look how that arm comes out.
I thought it was like that had to be a video game.
Wow, look at, I mean, that is a SpaceX Starship rocket booster, and for the first time ever,
Surreal.
the boost.
Surreal.
That's crazy, man.
It's the
God.
coolest thing, man. And
That
you
is.
started out by saying 1/20th the cost of NASA.
Think about that.
We've been talking. That just speaks volumes.
Doesn't it?
Why do we let the government do all of these things when they're only going to drive up the cost exponentially? That's what they do. When you don't have any accountability, and that's really what's happening in the government. Like, you can't get fired, right?
Right.
And it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you what it's un-American, really, to have the government handling these kinds of things. And now you see, here's another thing. All those rockets that went into the ocean, do you think that there could have been any poisonous materials that went into the water? I'm sure there wouldn't. That's ridiculous, right? But you can't put stuff. But if a straw goes into the ocean, it's going to kill all the turtles. You know, it's just so crazy the things that we are concerned about here. But that was one of the coolest things. Once again, hats off to Elon Musk. I mean, look at what this guy is doing.
Dude's amazing. Yeah.
He's a free speech warrior. He's shooting rockets into space that come right to us. I mean, he's got a thing. He's gonna the Neuralink. I mean, that actually scares me. But I mean, what a genius!
And he's Trump spoke to this there yesterday in that thing too. He's somehow or another, he doesn't have the time to be on cabinet, but he's somehow or another going to be in charge of increasing the efficiency of government. Now, that's the dude that's the only guy in America I would want in charge of
you would want to do that. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, God, that is really crazy.
Merle, I have like a movie recommendation I want to talk about, and then a final thing that I told you about, that medical miracle. And those are what I'm going to end with, but I wanted to ask, you probably got other stuff.
No, I think I'm good. The only other thing I wanted to bring up, the whole Prop 47 in California that allows people to steal up to $950 worth of merchandise. Well, that's up on the ballot coming up. It's Prop 36, and it's causing a whole lot of commotion. The governor does not want that to pass. Newsom,
meaning it gets withdrawn.
Yeah. Meaning they're going to prosecute people for stealing stuff. Finally,
my God,
the state finally has opened their eyes. This is a bill. Prop 47 is something Kamala supported as the Attorney General of California when this came out. They said it was called the Safe Neighborhood Act. Can you believe that's what it was called?
Dude, I totally believe that.
Neighborhood Act.
I totally believe that.
And Kamala was behind all that Safe Neighborhood Act title. Well, did it make our neighborhood safer? No, it destroyed our neighborhood.
How about that?
And now
who would have thought?
And it's the governor that's pushing against this, but this isn't. Oh, and you know who else authored that? Gascon, the current DA in Los Angeles. Wow. He helped author Prop 47, and look what he's done to Los Angeles. I had to move out because of that joker. And so now Prop 36, and you've got enemies against that. They think it's gonna, what Newsom says is this is gonna bring it back to an incarceration state where we put everybody in jail. Well, I got a solution to that. Quit stealing stuff. You won't go to jail. What kind of governor says something like that? Anyway, it looks like the polls are saying the people are going to pass Prop 36 and do away with this criminal act called the Safe Neighborhoods Act. This one should be called the Unsafe Neighborhood Act.
Of course,
it's not.
It's like the "Don't Say Gay" thing in front.
It's so
Florida.
crazy. But I'm excited to see that one, Prop 47, go down.
Let me ask you, you lived there for a long time. What makes Californians so stupid?
I think it's probably the air that they're breathing. I don't know, because, I was just talking to Scott about this the other day, and there's this superiority complex that people start to get in California. When they go and visit other states, they feel like, oh, what a bunch of country bumpkins. We know what's going on here. And you see the same thing. A bunch of them have moved to other states and they're trying to take over the state. I don't know what's causing this.
Wait a minute. I got to tell you, that's something very important you brought up. I don't remember what podcast I heard this on, but it was about the Soros effect. There are some people that believe that with your globalists, that this whole California thing they're a factory. They're intentionally bringing people in, what do you say, brainwashing them, and then pushing them out. Yeah. And infiltrating the rest of the states and turning them blue.
They're here trying to do the same thing in Arizona. You can see they're doing it in Texas and Georgia and Florida. I mean, it's a diabolical plan.
Yeah, it sure is. I wanted to say about a movie that I watched last night. It's the Halloween season, so I think this one's rather appropriate. It is called Devil. And it's from 2010. It's on Prime. You could watch it. It's M. Night Shyamalan. He wrote that. You know that writer-director guy?
Yeah.
He usually has some freaky movies.
Yeah.
This was pretty freaky. It's very well done. It had 4.5 stars. It's a bit of a horror movie, a bit of a thriller, a bit of a whodunit, and a bit of a spiritual journey. And it's a day. There's one day. 5 strangers. It begins with 5 strangers in an elevator ride in a Philadelphia office tower. So most of this takes place in this elevator. These 5 people. The elevator gets stuck, and the trapped passengers who expected to be together for just a few minutes now face the revelations of their secrets and their transgressions. Frightening events turn annoyance into terror as they begin to realize that one of them is Lucifer himself.
Oh, geez.
It was pretty good, man. It was pretty good. You would like the ending. And I thought that was a good movie that is worth taking a look at.
All right.
Yeah. And finally, let's just do this final share that, again, I think that you'll like a whole bunch. A miracle. New 911 dispatch technology saves this man's life. I think all of you guys will relate to this because it's almost like, oh, yeah, sure, we should be doing that. On August 4th, a regular day turned into a tragedy for Keith Young, who suddenly his heart stopped at home. He, quote, I was upstairs to take a shower and felt something was wrong and started pounding on the floor. By the time my wife got to me, I could barely breathe. Then everything went black. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. Now, his wife, Rachel, who was by his side for 41 years, was terrified to watch her husband collapse. She immediately called 911, fearing the worst. And this breakthrough technology changed everything. Rachel received a text message from the dispatcher, and with a link to the live video chat, when she opened it, Randy, the dispatcher, could see Keith's condition in real time because of her cell phone. Right. So he quotes, he's quoted, it gives us access to their microphone and camera, Randy explained. We can access things like the heart rate, breathing, and even the skin tone, all critical for determining how urgent the situation is. Randy then guided Rachel through CPR step by step while waiting with paramedics to arrive. Thanks to the new technology and Rachel's quick action, Keith was rushed to the hospital in critical condition and survived the ordeal. Dude, that reminds me of the technology you've been working with for about the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah. I mean, this is the point. And really, the whole reason I got into this healthcare situation had to do with my father having a heart attack at his house and got caught in a traffic jam. The ambulance got caught in a traffic jam. And I always thought, man, GPS technology probably would have saved his life there if they had it back then. And when I got the opportunity to go into technology that could save people's lives in any way, I was wanting to pay it forward. So looking at this type of thing and being able to use technology, gosh, they would have had this back when my dad had his heart attack at home. Maybe he would still be alive today. So this is great news on how our smartphones can actually save lives after all the bad things we hear about our smartphones. This is outstanding. Great news. Great news.
Absolutely love that. And I'm sorry I'm rushing a lot. It just seems like we had so much to cover. I think
we really did. There are so many things. So many things.
With that,
Good stuff.
let's go ahead and wrap up. Just want to ask you, do you have anything on tap for the weekend? We have a beautiful weekend on tap, and we're going to try to get outside a little bit.
Well, my snowbird aunt is back in town, Aunt Carol, and that's Larry's sister, and we're gonna have lunch together. We haven't seen her since May. She gets out of here in May and avoids all the heat. She has a house up in Colorado, and so she's back, and I can't wait to see her. And with the weather changing, I'm definitely getting on my motorcycle on Saturday and Sunday morning and just airing out those things. Last time I got stung by a bee.
Yeah. And you usually send me pics when you're out, and they're absolutely gorgeous. Please do again. I just want to ask, are your parents coming in?
They're going to come in December, so I can't wait to see them.
Nice.
And hopefully the kids can make it as well, and we can just have a great holiday season here at the Garrison household.
Oh, dude, I love that. Perfect note to end on. Hey, everybody, have a great weekend. Love you guys. Love you, Merle. Talk soon.
Yes.
And I forgot to mention, go to over50startingover.com, sign up. Oh, Mark's video, his 2-minute DIY is coming up. So stay tuned for that. Okay, see you guys.
Hey there, Over 50 Starting Over friends. How are you? Mark Tennant back with you here for your AI tip of the week. This week, create that weekly planner that you've always dreamed of with the help, of course, of ChatGPT. Let's get started. Well, weekly planning, it can be a hassle, overwhelming, especially with our busy schedules. Common issues, there's the list. You probably have your own reasons for creating your own schedule. So let's get started. Let's use our best solution that we know of right now, ChatGPT. Open it up and let's get prompting. We can start with this basic prompt: help me create a balanced weekly schedule. And once you insert that, and this is what I got back. Not bad. It asks you a bunch of different categories. It numbers those categories, a couple of questions with each category, and you do your best to answer those, so the AI gives you what you want. So for a tip, what I like to do is, you'll notice all the categories are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I like to create my response to each number, in this case, each question. So with number 1, I answered 40 hours a week. Number 2, exercise, and you can see down the list. Fed that into the AI and ChatGPT, not bad. It came out with a pretty good schedule. I wake up in the morning at 5:30 all the way till I go to bed at 10:30. I told it that in my response to its questions, and it broke out my day pretty decently. But Saturday, Sunday, not bad as well. But let's go back, and we always want to refine our prompts. Always tell you to do that. So I'm actually more productive in the mornings than I am in the afternoon. So in this prompt, I'm more productive in the morning, adjust the schedule accordingly. And boom, it did. It actually really broke down my schedule much better to emphasize a lot of the work in the morning and kind of taper off in the afternoon. Same thing with Saturdays and Sundays. Not bad at all. So remember, always refine those prompts till you're satisfied. Maybe you want to ask it, what weekly chores may I forget, or something else you might forget. Have that conversation with the chat. Break down my Wednesday so I'm not as busy. Those types of things. Again, just keep narrowing down and getting more focus on your answers till you get what you want in the proper response out of the AI. Benefits, of course, you can save time on planning, create more balanced and realistic schedules. You'll reduce your stress time. Hopefully you won't forget anything and improve that productivity. So quick tips before we leave you. Don't forget, be specific with your prompts. Always narrow down your focus, iterate and refine with ChatGPT, and create a prompt framework. We talked about those and exactly how you would prompt the AI, and always apply your own judgment when looking at AI and using those answers, because sometimes it can hallucinate. So remember, ChatGPT, the goal here is to make planning easier, not to add complexity. Don't forget that. So until next time, as we always tell you, keep refining those prompts, keep using AI, and invite you to go to my website. Mark, I've got some different things that I'm always putting out, some tips and tricks as well. Email mark@marktennant.net, and I invite you to connect with me on LinkedIn, Mark E. Tennant. So until next time, have a wonderful week. Keep prompting and take care.